as well as elsewhere that will focus on the latter two dimensions. In looking at that one area, what we asked the question, what needed to be answered, and basically these are the four things that have surfaced. One is, to what extent does the integration of these eHealth and innovation-enabled solutions improve access to care, health outcomes, patient experience, efficiencies, and equity? What's the comparative cost effectiveness of these new methodologies, or what I'd say e-enabled services compared to usual care? Very important from the policymaker perspective in terms of making decisions about adoption. The social, legal, and ethical issues, of course, surface repeatedly when you're actually changing the way care is delivered using digital technologies. And then, most importantly, for Canada and elsewhere, is once something is found to be successful, how do you scale it up successfully to other regions, provinces, and territories, and elsewhere in the world, for that matter. So to sort of figure out how we should design the funding opportunity, how should we focus it, we held a workshop in October 2013 with leading international researchers as well as Canadian researchers, industry representatives, funders, and other key stakeholders. And we asked them to help us identify the conditions necessary to facilitate successful innovation and partnership. We asked them to identify which stage of innovation we should start investing in at first, and also what priority areas we should focus on vis-a-vis investment. And we put forward to them a variety of different areas where both others had focused in terms of their investment, and they included areas such as patient self-management, personalized decision support, population health monitoring, and e-enabled support for the continuum of care, as well as by population for mental health, where there has been a bit of a paradigm shift here with eHealth solutions, chronic disease prevention and management, of course, and rural and remote health, which is, of course, important in Canada. And so they provided us with excellent feedback, and it really has led to an important series of decisions that were made in how we designed this program. So the first was that we should make the eHealth initiative, the eHealth partnership, person-oriented rather than technology-oriented. So although we talked about self-management tools and personalized decision support, what they said to us is that you need to focus on a population where you can actually focus on the service delivery to that population, you can focus on the gaps and inefficiencies that are there, and you can define a policy-relevant outcome of improvement that you want to achieve. So tell us what the target is, tell us what the benchmark is, tell us what outcomes you're going to improve, and how you're going to get there. So that was a very important, I'd say probably principle that is now embedded in this funding opportunity, that we are not here to fund technology, we're here to fund e-enabled modification of health services that we believe will improve outcomes, efficiencies, and the patient experience, and that really is a hallmark of this proposal. So please do look in the funding opportunity, because some of the outcomes we're expecting to achieve are outlined there. The second thing they said is that you really need to foster partnerships with small and medium-sized enterprises. They are the primary drivers of innovation, and you need to have them on board and partnering with folks in this initiative in order to innovate the next generation of solutions. That really changed the paradigm again, so that we really needed to work with people who also work with small and medium-sized enterprises in order to engage them and work in synergy with them to foster this initiative, which we have done by working with the accelerators, the incubators, the economic development agencies, and federally with the National Research Council IRAP program. The third thing they said is that you need to partner people up, get them together, mobilize what they called innovation communities. This has really been the model that has proven to be successful, both in terms of funders who have funded in this direction, but also what has arisen naturally, is when you partner together the people who are involved in delivering the service, the policymakers that are there to set the framework for both funding and management of that service, the end users, patients, clinicians, caregivers, and academics who actually can evaluate things, is that magical things can happen, because what happens is they will co-innovate, co-develop, co-adapt solutions and can actually test them in very large-scale demonstration projects that can generate the kind of scientific evidence that is of interest to technology assessment bodies that make decisions about technologies that will be adopted in healthcare. The fourth thing they said is really standardize the methods and metrics, tell us what it is that we should be measuring and how we should do it, and fund large-scale randomized, cluster randomized trials so that we actually can do more than 5 or 6 patients love it, but really we can actually evaluate the comparative cost effectiveness. So the Institute for Health Services and Policy Research worked with the Institute for Health Economics and their network of economists across the country to establish guidelines for the economic evaluation of complex interventions. Please, it's linked to the funding opportunity. Please take a look at this. This has really been a network of people across Canada and internationally that have sort of interpreted the standards here to fit with complex health system interventions, which is what this is going to be. And finally, and most importantly, align policies to support the adoption and implementation. This is not necessary, is part of the design in the sense that we want main decision makers, policymakers to be involved in these applications, but we also realize that there are bigger issues here in terms of both data management, funding and reimbursement policies, and moving towards a value-based procurement, which will be on the agenda of ourselves and our partners moving forward. So 2 priority areas were selected where we thought there would be early gains. So one was the early detection intervention for youth and mental health. This is eHealth innovations have been a paradigm shift, particularly for leading countries such as Australia, in how they deliver mental health services, especially for youth. And you can see that the majority of onset, essentially incidents, is occurring essentially in the age span of 18 and younger to 26, is that really this is where most mental health problems are first identified or developed, and so this is the focus here, and given that youth are online in a fairly major way, it becomes natural to actually take advantage of eHealth innovations in this particular target population. The second is supporting seniors with complex needs and multiple health conditions in their homes and communities. This is a group of people who they're fragile, they're in and out of health care, they need support for staying in their home, which is often where they really want to be. We really have to get a bit more ahead of the curve than we are right now, because if you look at the age shift in our population, is that seniors will become the new normal, and multimorbidity is something that's associated with aging, and this is a graphic from that important Lancet publication. So this is future-proofing us to more or less say how can we actually do this for this important group of people who currently may not be able to benefit from the many technologies that are out there that could support them. So in terms of the recommended stage of innovation, the workshop participants basically said, we really think you should be focusing at the latter stage, large-scale experimental implementation. We have a lot of things out there, but they really have not been fit well into the continuum of care, and they've not been adopted in healthcare, and this is where you should focus. Because in the technology readiness level, and that's what's on the top here, areas 1 through 6, this is really where the economic development agencies are, and there really is a lack of investment in the 7, 8, and 9 territory, and this is a natural for CHR and provincial health research organizations to invest in this area. So that's the focus of this investment, so that there is an expectation that applicants and SME partners will, by the time funding rolls out, have their technologies at the level of 6, 7, 8, 9, technology readiness level 7, 8, 9. And there is a link to these technology readiness levels in the funding opportunity document. So do take a look. It was sort of new terminology for me as well, but certainly our industry partners understand this quite well. And so for the first phase of this, we identified 2 objectives, and one is to identify patient-oriented eHealth solutions that will improve healthcare outcomes, patient experience, and lower the cost of care. So this fits with the overall goal of the initiative. and to collaborate with patient-centered advocacy groups and health system partners to identify the pain points in the patient journey. So it really is to say, where are the gaps and inefficiencies, what are the problems? And so we have worked with our national health, our provincial health research funders, with our regional representatives for the NRC IRAP program, and with other economic development agencies to work with them to convene regional workshops whereby we work together to identify what these issues are and to co-problem solve on potential solutions for this, just as a way of sort of getting the partnership discussions up and underway to obviously strengthen partnerships and strengthen proposals. So here are two examples of pain points that came out, one in the areas of seniors with complex care, and this was Colleen McGavin, who identified this as a representative of caregivers of a caregiver in the seniors population, of really some of the challenges in this population of, especially when people have a variety of different conditions in and out of hospital, as there's a lack of information and coordination of resources, and that both caregivers and patients are being left out of the discussions that they need to be part of in order to share in the decision-making. And for youth and mental health, and this is Patrick McGorry's depiction of essentially the confusion of what door is the right door to turn to when it comes to youth that have mental health problems. These are just two examples. The second objective was to foster these partnerships, to create these healthcare innovation communities that would represent people who are involved in delivering care, the academic community, and industry, and ideally multiple industries that would have solutions that may solve some of these pain point problems, and to collaborate as well with the regional economic development agencies that could make sure that we could get the right partners at the table here, and to develop the guidelines, as I've outlined, for pragmatic trials of eHealth technologies so that we can actually get the best science going in this area. So here's an example of a regional event. So these have been structured. They're occurring across the country. This is the one that was held in BC in early February, whereby we actually have the stories from the patient journey and where the gaps and inefficiencies are, learning from success stories of others who have actually managed to make these collaborations, build these innovation communities. What were the things you should and shouldn't do, and what were the conditions for success? And then co-problem solving on discussions about how can we tackle, and this is really a group of people from industry, from the service delivery environment, from the end-user caregiver environment, who are co-problem solving together, sort of things they could do to address gaps and inefficiencies along the patient journey. So this is really a way of trying to strengthen the applications and get the right partners to the table for everyone. So as I mentioned, the healthcare innovation communities essentially can be local regional health care organizations, they can be hospitals, they can be municipalities, they can be community hospital home networks, they could be academic health centers, regional health authorities, and in the case of mental health, they oftentimes are high schools, colleges, university campuses where, in fact, youth are and where the outreach needs to occur in order to do the early detection intervention. With respect to the industry, we're interested in Canadian health technology companies or their foreign subsidiaries. We're interested in companies that could have or could adapt products to address the priority areas that we've identified, that they have differentiated technology that has a competitive edge, and this is what is of interest to the economic development agencies that are here to support sort of the growth of our Canadian industry, that they have attractive business objectives, strong management team, and although we're targeting small, medium-sized enterprises, it's certainly not limited to that, and in fact, the full ecosystem of small and large industries may be something that actually would be a very positive asset to have in your funding application. The overall planned investment from CIHR is $12 million. There are additional funding envelopes that may come from regions who want to make sure that they have health innovation partnerships, communities in their particular regions. And we'll be putting this on the website as these arrangements are signed. In terms of funds available, overall, it's $1.5 million per application, of which half of what needs to come and be brought by the applicant. And of the 50% that needs to come from the applicant, 50% of that, or a quarter of the overall amount, needs to come from industry. And why are we doing that? We're doing that because we really want to make sure that industry really is invested in this funding opportunity. We do see it as an important ingredient for the success of this funding opportunity. I just want to make a note that other federal funding, such as for NCEs and CSERs, is not eligible as matching funds, although there could be tremendous synergies created in partnering with NCEs to provide in-kind support in a variety of different ways. So it's not to say they're not important, and we actually know that there are a number of NCEs in the technology area for seniors, so this is something to think about. In terms of the matching funds, we know that economic development agencies have invested in these companies. That investment it can be part of the matching, and in fact, we think that would be delightful if it was, because it shows some of the synergy between the two kinds of programs for Canada. And so we actually deliberately set this as an 18-month back window, so that investments they might have already made could be complemented by investments that we would make in the full-scale rollout and evaluation of a technology in a healthcare environment, as sort of a large-scale system demonstrator, so to speak. And so it's back 18 months from the time of application. Here are examples of matching funds. So it includes, of course, cash, but it also includes the investment that's been made in development costs. It could be by the industry itself, or it could be by an angel investor, or it could be by an economic development agency, either provincial or federal. So all of that counts. Also things like implementation and training costs, integration costs, tuning developments, and so on are all part of this. So please take a look at the website for the full list, and of course, this slide deck will be available to you after the webinar is completed. Just to highlight the application timeline is we're doing these partnership workshops. We started in October, our first one in Quebec City, and we've been at it on the road doing these in partnership with our regional partners. We'll be finishing in March 2015. The actual registration deadline, which is where you need to indicate that you're going to apply, provide typically a one-page summary of your application so that we can make sure that we have peer reviewers at the table who really have the content expertise to review the kind of applications that are coming in. So that's April 1st, 2015. And the full application will be June 3rd, 2015, with funds being adjudicated, peer review happening, and funds, decisions being made and funds rolling out in October 2015. So in terms of the eligibility criteria, there needs to be a nominative principal applicant. There could be multiple co-principal applicants. That's just fine. They need to come from an eligible institution, and that typically for CIHR are all universities are eligible, as well as oftentimes research institutes of university-based hospitals. There needs to be a scientific lead, an independent researcher. There needs to be a health professional lead, because this will involve co-design, redesign of clinical delivery programs or social service programs, and so we do need clinical leadership here. There needs to be a decision maker who has the authority to commit an innovation community to participate in both the integration of eHealth innovations into their service environment and the evaluation. That typically involves an IT infrastructure that has to be there and support for that. And there has to be patient and family representatives who are involved as end users, have the patient experience, and can inform the development, co-development, co-adaptation of these solutions. So the applicants need to secure these external partner contributions as outlined previously. The review criteria will be done, it's structured. The particular criteria that are going to be used in each of these sectors is outlined in the funding opportunity. I urge you to take a look at this, because we will be following that, and the reviewers will be following that. The review team will consist of the usual researchers, but it also will include patients and families, the end users, health professionals, also end users. It will include representatives who can evaluate the industry contribution as well, but not be competitive with industries that may be coming in. And so do take a look at these criteria. I think it would be important for you in thinking about how to structure your application. So a third will go to the planned intervention. What is the likelihood that this will achieve the objective, improve the patient experience, efficiencies, result in more cost-effective care? What's the probability that's going to be achieved? That's the first third of marks will be in that area. The second will be in the quality of the evaluation plan. So we are ideally looking for, if not, certainly it will be rated higher, looking at pragmatic trials, cluster randomized trials, step-wedge designs, and so on, because that will deliver sort of a level 1 science, level 1 evidence, that we think will be important for achieving impact adoption and sort of and high-quality science here, and then a third to the team and the quality of the team. So we are holding these workshops and webinars. Here are the upcoming workshops. So the next one will be in Edmonton in March, and followed by a 2-day workshop in Toronto, 1 day devoted to seniors, and the second day devoted to mental health. I can't remember which day is which, but seniors I think is first, so that would be on the 5th. Winnipeg on the 12th, and finally Montreal on the 27th. So do stay connected. We've used this hashtag, and by this point we're down to half the regional workshops already, so there is exchange that's going on around the country around this, so do participate in this. So this is, and tweet about it, yes. And if you would like to have more information, you can see this is my strong point, is my tweeting skills. So do contact us if you have other questions and want other information. Howard Comian from our institute is available. This is her email, as are Christine Charette from CIHR and Olivier Jacob-Gravel. Both of them are in program delivery at CIHR, and we'll be able to answer all your questions about issues related to technicalities, the application, and so on. So I'll stop right now and look forward to your questions.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I believe Linda is on the line as well, and she's going to thankfully serve as moderator for the Q&A right now. So Linda, I welcome you to unmute yourself and take it away with the set of questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Hawa. Hi, everyone. One of the more common questions at the beginning was whether or not the presentation would be available online. It will, in fact, be available through the recording online, and the presentation itself will be emailed to all participants after the webinar. Moving down the list. Question is, does CIHR have any tools or platforms to bring together the academic and industry communities? Robin, can I defer to you on this one?
Yeah, so what we can do is we'll just verify with our regional partners. What can be done is that we can actually make available, I think we can do this, I'm not 100% sure, but who participated in the respective regional workshops. So who are the researchers, who are the industry partners, and so we'll just verify that we can have that information available so that you can see the kind of people who are involved. It may mean that we have to get their permission for contacting, but we'll just have to, we'll check on that. But I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I think that is an excellent idea, and I think that is all you have to do is get consent.
Okay. So we can actually facilitate emails out to those people so that we can see whether they want to consent to have their names, contact points, and so on made available through a national partnering database.
Great. So the next question is similar, and it's about bringing the partners together. Robin, you've already spoken about the workshops and this platform that we just discussed. Is there anything to add in relation to that question?
Yeah, I would urge you, if you can, to be part of the workshops. I mean, they've been stimulating, they've been exciting to go to, actually, and there's lots of good connections that are made at these workshops. We find that you know, some of the big industries will go to multiple of these workshops, so you have an opportunity there to see them in a variety of different settings. Yeah, so I would really think that's a great idea to do that.
And so I'll just jump in here because I am seeing a few comments with regards to registration for some of the workshops. So for ones particularly in Ontario, there was a sort of application process to get an intake of people that were interested, and then that list was whittled down. So I will say that right now for Ontario, that workshop is full and confirmed at this point, as well as Alberta, I'll say, but right now, absolutely Manitoba and Montreal, those two workshops are still in the process of launching their registration process. So for our community members on the line from those regions, we would absolutely urge you to connect with us and to connect with the workshop hosts whom we've listed on our website under the Events tab to ensure that you're able to connect and participate in those sessions.
I think people, I see a number of questions here in relationship to the workshops being full and how can you participate if they're full. There are maybe opportunities we can explore to have an online presence at that workshop or live streaming of that workshop. I don't know what the price tag on that would be and whether we can afford that, but this is something that we'll speak to for people who have a waiting list for the workshop and their workshop is full. So I think it's a great idea if we can actually pull it off, and that way people can participate from their desktop, so to speak.
Great, thanks, Robin. The next question is whether $187K per year for multi-site controlled evaluation, if that's the amount. So partnered, that would raise it to $375 per year over 4 years. Robin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think this is, I would agree, actually, we're a bit on the low end, in fact, for especially a multi-site kind of assessment. What I would urge people to do is, one way of lowering the cost of this is to work in conjunction, and we'll make this available to you online and in the back end of this presentation, with the regional support units if one is up and running in your region. This is the strategy for patient-oriented research, those support units. One way of actually lowering the cost of these kind of evaluations, which has been brilliantly tried out in Sweden, is actually to link the enrollment of people who are part and parcel of your intervention to both the administrative and some instances clinical data that's available in the data platforms of the regional support units. These are called registry trials, and they're basically aimed at actually getting a measure, actually an excellent measure of the outcome that would be of policy relevance by actually linking the enrolled trialees effectively with their population level administrative data that is in the data platform of the support unit. So we will be fostering kind of this kind of thinking with both the support unit side and with the applicant part, but we'll give you the names of the data platform people and the support unit leads, and I'd urge you to talk to them a little bit about this, because this is one way of actually doing something that is really only possible in a small number of countries in the world, Canada being one of them, and it would be a way of potentially getting a better outcome at a lower cost than trying to measure this in the usual field way.
Thanks, Robin. The next question is the goal of the workshop for partners to be matched together, or is the goal to enter the workshop with preformed teams and concepts?
It's really to partner people together. It's not, but at the end of it, people are just discussing. We ran 2 Catalyst competitions before this in eHealth, and one of the things that came back from the academic sector was to say, we love to work with industry, but we don't know how to connect with them. And so this is a way of actually trying to make those connections. And although we originally thought of doing this at a national level, we were strongly advised that this is all about regional partnerships. So that's why we're running a large, like a regional partnership workshop in every region.
Great, thank you. The next one is, Are the contributions from industry cash or in kind? It can be either. We don't have a cap on how much cash has to be brought in. And as a reminder, the partner contributions can be backdated 18 months to the application deadline. And so we're seeing that potentially that the costs that are related to developing the innovation would be eligible as costs for partnering. Okay, the next question is, it's more of a comment, would be nice to have a database or some other platform to match researchers with industry and other potential partners. I think we covered that actually. Is there a workshop planned for PEI?
PEI was to have been part of the New Brunswick workshop. And I'm trying to remember whether they were there. There were a few representatives from PEI at the New Brunswick workshop. But that was the PEI/New Brunswick workshop.
Okay. The next question is, does the backdate funding include clinical trials? So it's really any funding that is excludes what would be what Robin mentioned earlier, but that would go into developing the innovation. So if there's clinical trial funding that is not related to anything that CIHR has funded, it could be. But keeping in mind that half of that partner contribution has to come from a health technology partner. Robin, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think that's you covered it, Linda.
Great. Okay.
I'm seeing that one of our participants is actually reaching out using the chat box to talk to everybody else on the thing. So I think that's great, and we'll see, very clever. And I would see what we can do to actually foster some dialogue using the tweet function to try to get people partnering together or through other venues. So you give it as a challenge, folks, and I think that it's a good one, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, so the next question is, could you tell us what you are looking for specifically in terms of the skills and experience of the teams?
Yeah, so I urge you again to go to the funding opportunity and look at the criteria that have been laid out for that. So it really will be on the capacity of the team. So have they worked in this area before? Do they have, for example, in the health innovation site service delivery environment, do they have strong buy-in from the CEO of that site? Do they actually have, and can they make the case they have a strong enough informatics infrastructure, or can actually are working with a partner that could address that issue to integrate these things in their service delivery environment? Have they shown evidence they've done that in the past? Obviously would be make it even stronger. Do they have buy-in clinical leadership that actually can make a convincing case that they have a plan for how they want to co-design this program, and it's plausible that this could be rolled out and worked, and they've actually had experience in doing that in the past and make it even stronger? Do they already have partnerships with researchers who have been involved and been conducting evaluations on eHealth related platforms, either in that environment or in the past? That would actually strengthen probably the application that they've been there before, have done that before. Has this team actually worked in the past, or a large enough chunk of the team has worked in the past and has been successful in some regard, whether that's, they produce new innovations, or they've actually published together in a given area, or they have spun out a company as a result of that, and it could be a whole variety of different ways of arguing that the case that this team is actually highly productive. So it doesn't have to do simply with the standard scientific output. I hope that gives you sort of a glimpse at the kind of things that might be useful. I think also from the industry side, I think it's whether or not this is a product that appears to be a good match for the gap and inefficiency that's being addressed. That will be evaluated probably in terms of the array of industries and the products that are being brought forward. That will be judged in both the intervention that's planned as well as the program of service that's being planned, as well as in the team itself.
Okay, great. The next question is, will you allow research administrators to register for the application so we can see the structured application and be better positioned to help applicants? For the official submission, the nominated principal applicant has to be the one that registers, but I would encourage anyone to contact Christine Charette for any support in terms of questions that may help clarify things for people that are asking questions. Okay, I think we've answered the next one.
Another question about IP ownership. Please take there is a frequently asked questions that are connected to the eHealth Innovation Partnership Program funding opportunity. So this is this question is in the FAQs. So intellectual property needs to be sorted out amongst the players and follow the institutional policies that prevail for the respective parties. So, you know, this is worked out at the institutional level and not at a CIHR level. It needs to be worked out by the teams themselves, what they're bringing to the table already, and how much of that is something that is already well developed with intellectual property well defined in relationship to that, and whatever the add-on would be, and so on. So it really has to be sorted out on an application by application, team by team basis, in accordance with the rules that prevail at the people's institutions involved.
Okay, so the next question is about the registration portal for the deadline of April 1st. You mentioned a one-page proposal to start. Is there an example template that can be provided? We don't have an example template, but if you go into the funding opportunity, there's a box on the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner. Once you click on that, that will lead you into the portal, into the application instructions and the application forms themselves, so you can go through that and see everything as you're registering. Okay. There's a question about BC, whether or not they'd be hosting a workshop again before the due date.
No, because we partnered with the regions providing a fair bit of funding ourselves. We basically just ran out of money, you know. So we had enough money to do each region, and some of the regions incorporated the territories. And so, and some, like Alberta, for example, is going to do Alberta and Saskatchewan and the Northwest Territories. So, sorry, that's really what all the funding we had to do this.
Okay, so the next one is, since not everyone's work fit within the two priorities that are listed, are there plans for future eHIPP competitions that have different priorities?
Yes, there is a plan for future research, future eHIPP partnership programs. So we're thinking of a phase 1, phase 2 kind of a scenario. So phase 1 would be these kind of partnership programs. This is about youth and mental health and seniors with complex needs. But subsequent launches of this could be about personalized medicine or the cancer care journey or other exemplars that are being selected. Phase 2 is really going to be about linking together the Canadian health innovation communities that are working in a given exemplar area and linking to them to the international partnerships. So that's the phase 2, what we've called the eHub phase of this. So the president and CEO of CHR has just convened a national eHealth steering committee whereupon decisions about the framing, the overall framing of the multiple phases of this initiative and how comprehensive it should be is on their mandate to advise him on that. And so, but this was the intent, is that we're starting with 2 exemplars and that we would be using this model of, you know, regional partnership, build these innovation communities in these exemplar areas, link them together and link them internationally as a phase 2. So that's our thinking. Of course, it will be a function of our funding. It will be a function of the success of this. We may tinker with this much more depending on how it works, and we really appreciate your feedback all the way along this journey so that we do get it right for all subsequent phases as well. This, as I mentioned, or maybe I can reiterate if I forgot to mention it, is part of the new strategic plan of CHR. It's on their roadmap that eHealth will be a priority area for them. So I can I think we're in a strong situation of actually of seeing more of this happening and more of this being funded through CIHR and its various partners.
Okay, the next question is, can you expand on Objective 5 regarding reimbursement implementation by insurers?
Objective 5. Wow. Okay, hold on. Objective 5. I don't really see Objective 5. I had 4 objectives. I'm not sure where Objective 5 is coming from.
Yeah, I
got to say. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe we could actually advise us where you're finding such a objective.
Yeah, maybe we can circle back to that question, and whoever asked it can just provide a little bit more clarity.
Okay, great. So the next question is, do the matching funds by industry have to be committed for 4 years, and what type of commitment is sought? So the matching funds have to cover the amount that is, sorry, let me just back up for a second. So CIHR is putting in $187.5 per year. That has to be matched by a partner, so at a 1-to-1 ratio. Of that partner contribution, half has to come from industry. So as long as that value over the 4 years is covered, it doesn't necessarily have to be year by year. It can be front-loaded, but it can't be back-loaded because then that's a risk to the CIHR investment, but it can be front-loaded.
Okay, Linda, I think we've unsolved the mystery of what the 5th objective was. Okay, so there were 5 principles that were used in designing this funding opportunity that came out of the eHealth workshop in 2013. The 5th one had to do with aligning policies to support the adoption and implementation of eHealth solutions. This, a guarantee of adoption and implementation does not have to be part of, nor is it expected to be part of the application. The strength of the argument that this is going to be a more effective, patient-centered, more efficient way of delivering service, and that's what's going to be evaluated, needs to be there, of course. But what I mentioned here is that really there are multiple players that have to be involved in improving decision-making about this and making sure that there are not barriers to adoption of successful solutions that really shouldn't be there, and that CIHR will play a role as one of the many players that is concerned about this, because if we invest in this, if it really works well, and it's not adopted by the healthcare system, that would be a failure on the part of the CIHR investment. So this is the part that we, as one of the many agencies that's concerned about this, will be working in a collaborative role with other agencies to try to address some of the policy issues.
Okay, thank you. So the other question about the industry contribution is about what type of commitment is sought. And there is a list in the funding opportunity, and it includes cash. It also includes development costs, contributions from industrial support programs for product development, price reduction of the platform, implementation costs, training, maintenance, updates, tuning, co-developments, and investments in the technology platform, and investments in infrastructure. So as mentioned, you can find that complete list in the funding opportunity if you'd like to reference it. Okay, the next question, is it possible that workshops be captured in video and streamed through YouTube? I think you've answered that. There's a few on Google. Thanks very much. Okay, next question is, I'm from industry and we are interested in a project that leverages SMS text messaging as the means for patient engagement, mental health priority. If anyone wants to explore, okay, so that's a reach out, which is great. There's a lot of reaching out. This is great.
So one question here is, how can eHealth be implemented without commitment from the payers? So there needs to be commitment, obviously, and I think this is why we needed the buy-in from the senior management of the health innovation community. There has to be buy-in from the person who is authorized to make that decision, that they will, A, engage in this in their environment and will support it, that their IT infrastructure will be engaged in supporting the integration of these solutions into their environment to create the e-enabled service delivery program. And so that's fairly substantial. So that environment is buying in to a large-scale demonstration project. So we're really talking hundreds and thousands of patients being involved in this, or hundreds and thousands of individuals. So that's the kind of buy-in that we're expecting. As I mentioned, in fact, the value-based procurement or evidence-based procurement, the setting the table for essentially adoption of eHealth solutions through a policy framework that supports that. This is the subject of the agenda of the innovation report in Ontario. It's probably the subject of the federal innovation report. So there are a number of players at the table who are concerned about innovation in Canada and barriers that we're putting in our way in terms of innovation in Canada. This funding opportunity is aimed at actually generating evidence that would basically pass the snuff test of the standard technology assessment agencies, and so that would be able to survive the process of going through that process for consideration of adoption, and engaging policymakers locally in actually embracing this within their own environment. So it isn't the full enchilada here, but in terms of this funding opportunity, but there is the full intent to actually work in collaboration with all these other stakeholders to get better alignment in Canada to try to make sure that investments in innovation land back in the healthcare system, especially if they are more cost-effective and efficient and successful. You can't really get a commitment from payers at this point because you don't really have the evidence that it actually works. So this is the kind of program that's aimed at generating that evidence.
We also have a question about what do we mean by adoption scale-up?
It really means the adoption and scale-up really refers to the idea that just what we were talking about. So first of all, in order to have a successful application here, there needs to be a health innovation community that says, I want to be at the table, I want to be at the plate, and I'm willing to commit my institution, my organization to getting this done and being the test site, the innovation test bed for these kinds of things. We do see this as not a one-off. It's probably going to be a sustained partnership that would co-innovate a whole variety of different solutions. So it really is not just, it's really to start creating these communities in Canada that can actually roll out a whole variety of different things. So I think that's the first part of this, and then the scale-up is to say, you know, what is your game plan? If this works, what's the scale-up strategy? And it's impossible to actually dictate how that would work. It depends upon what it is you're proposing. So the scale-up strategy could be quite different depending upon if it's in a high school kind of scenario that you're doing something, or you're doing it in a senior's residence. So it's really hard to predict that, but that's something that needs to be considered and sort of outlined, sort of the thought process of how they would do that by the applicants, because the intent would be, if it really works well, then where should it next go?
The next question is, would there be support for international partnership in this phase if we already have these established?
Absolutely. That would be fantastic.
And the one thing that you would have to demonstrate, and it will get pulled out because of the evaluation criteria, is the benefits to Canada. And would in-kind funding be acceptable as a form of matched funds? Yes, it would, and as detailed by the list that I had read earlier. I think you answered the last one, Robin. Do you expect health economic model to support the innovation real-life data collection? Have you?
I didn't see. Sorry, what is the question, Linda?
It's do you expect a health economic model to support the innovation? Question mark, real-life data collection, question mark.
Yeah, real-life data collection, yes.
Another question is, can an organization be involved in 2 or more projects, i.e. one mental health and one senior? Yes, they can. The only thing is that you can't submit 2 similar or same projects using the same innovation. But the organizations, yes, we encourage, there's many different dimensions to this opportunity, so we encourage as much collaboration and submission as you can do.
So I think there's a question about if the innovation is a service rather than a product, what kind of investments can be funded? So I think just to clarify that that what we imagine is the eHealth innovation is integrated into a service delivery program, meaning that it's, if you're going to say, I'm going to support seniors who are in and out of the hospital in a regular way, I'm going to actually provide ongoing monitoring service through home monitoring devices that I'm going to implement in their home. I'm going to support that with a tele-home care service. I'm going to actually have a shared portal so they can communicate with the care team. That maybe is about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 products that you might want to incorporate and include into that service. And the aim of that would be to actually reduce the likelihood that they'd be back in hospital because you have earlier detection and intervention of issues that are arising, and so that you reduce the cost of essentially unnecessary hospitalization. So that's an example of maybe 6 or 7 products that would be incorporated into a post-discharge service program.
That's all the questions I can see. Are there any that were sent directly to you, Robin?
I already answered that. Yeah. There was a question about how can eHealth be implemented without commitment for payers, and I think I already answered that question.
So then I think we just have a last couple of minutes here, folks. So if people would just like to get in their last few questions or comments before we wrap up, then that would be most appreciated. Linda, was there anything else that you wanted to add from a program delivery perspective?
I don't think so, other than just a reminder to contact Christine as you develop your applications if you have any questions.
Thanks very much for your great questions, by the way, for all the participants that sent some in, and good advice to us as to what we can do to assist you in partnering and also being part and parcel of these regional events.